Good evening, everyone. So we will discuss today's newspaper articles. So the first article of the day is about Pegasus spyware row rocks Parliament. Now, why Parliament? As all of you know, Parliament is a house of accountability. It's a temple of democracy, where each and every decision taken by the government will come into the picture. Now, so we have to take the cases based on the facts. We cannot go by political affiliations, so that is not at all important for the system. What is important for the system is linking this to multiple levels of our syllabus. The first one being governance, right? Then we can link it to GS paper 4, that is ethical part and morals. Then finally, we can also use this in essay paper as well. So as all of you know the basics, so this is a Israeli spyware that has been probably procured by Indian government, and somehow down the line it was misused. So both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the opposition parties are trying to corner the government, and that is leading to disruption of the houses. So definitely it's an important issue. Along with this issue, there are other important things that has to be discussed. We cannot forget about the COVID pandemic. So after COVID pandemic, the second wave, this is the first time that the parliament is meeting. So there is a lot of discussion and debate that has to happen, and so many progressive bills are waiting to be passed. So in GS paper 2, PRS after this entire session will release a document saying this is the productivity of this particular session, how many hours or how many bills have been passed. So all such data should be collected and used in your GS paper to answer writing. Now, so though this is totally a political article, snooping in Karnataka just before the regime change, what is important is, as we have seen in USA elections or in other countries, technology is playing a huge role as a disruptor to the electoral process. So that is a threat to democracy. Democracies survive because of the trust in the elections, right? When a particular political party lose an election and moves on to the next stage, the party in power will become the opposition, right? So in such scenarios, the trust in Election Commission of India and elections and the entire procedure is what leads to the stability, right? Or else we will see a lot of problems. So if spywares are used as a political tool rather than for national security, if that is the case, again, this is in general, not about this particular article, right? If spywares are used not for national security, but for political security, right? What we have seen in the Richard Nixon's entire case of Watergate scandal, he tried to use technology to gain leverage on his political opponents, and that backfired spectacularly. And so that happened in 1970s, 72. We are seeing that in 2021. So the political masters always use the tools that are available to them, right? And it's not limited to one particular political party. As we have seen in today's editorial, almost 4 or 5 cases have been mentioned by him, right? So all these things are very important to be noticed. So next, so if that is the case, that is a severe threat. We have seen the same in the West Bengal case also. So that's not good for democracies in the long run. Now, yesterday we have discussed this particular article where Supreme Court has wrapped the Kerala for giving permission during the COVID pandemic. So right to life is more important rather than any religious congregation or meeting. That has to be paramount, and it can be used in your GS paper 2. Right. So this is a very interesting article. This is about Zero survey. It gives a lot of information. Policy decision making can be made. So 2/3 of Indians, around a lot of huge population of Indians have been developed antibodies. Okay, that does not mean we are out of this entire COVID cycle. As all of you know, there is no proper empirical data like what is a good number for herd immunity. So that's a problematic scenario, right? The next problematic scenario is we are huge population. Let's say even if 100 crore population is vaccinated, Still that leaves around 30 to 40 crore of the population. Yeah, we are not even vaccinating the kids. So that's a whole different segment. So all the adults should be vaccinated. And next is there is this supposed antibody count reduction, right? Like 6 months later, our antibodies will come down. So we have to make sure that we are vaccinating bulk of the population in less amount of time so that we can get the herd immunity and reduce the impact of third, fourth, and other cycles. So as of today, I think only 7% or 6.5% of the population has been totally vaccinated. That still leaves a huge number to be vaccinated. Next. So no deaths due to lack of oxygen reported. So this is morally wrong at many levels. We cannot criticize the government for whatever it wants to, whatever it feels to say in the House of the Parliament. But the thing is, there is a solution for this. If government in power lies or gives false or wrong information to the public, there is an option called as privileged motion. Okay, so privilege motion can be invoked against this particular minister. A committee can be set up. If found to be true, he can be expelled from the house. So the famous cases being Indira Gandhi case and Subramania Swamy case, both of them were expelled from the house for lying to the parliament. So in the same lines, this new health minister can also be issued a show cause notice. But the thing is, the head of the house, the speaker or the vice president, the speaker of the house, the chairman of the house, are the ones who will either accept or reject the privilege motions. Right. So for prelims point of view, I think the privilege motions is a very, very important point. I mean, all polity sections are important. Whatever is primed, whatever is in the news is very important. Right. So the most important thing in the entire front page is the Pegasus thing. Again, no need of doing PhD, but the most important thing we need to learn is it's a crisis. As Winston Churchill says, never let a good crisis go waste, right? So what can we learn from the crisis is more important than what is happening. So in such situations, democracies get stronger. Watergate scandal made the USA stronger in a way. Whistleblowing of Snowden made it even more stronger in that particular sense. That did not stop the countries to invest in spying, snooping, and all these technologies. So it's as old as Kautilya, as we have discussed yesterday, but it has to be done in the right way. So this is one more article. This is about GS paper 1 society. So time and again we see questions in UPSC like, is Indian politics and religion interlinked, or religion is a very important factor of politics, etc. So in such places you can use this particular article. So Lingayat is a very powerful community from Karnataka, right? So Mr. Yedurappa belongs to that particular community, and there is a news that he might be changed. So that is not useful for us. But the religious doctrine, the religious support that is rallied behind him is a very, very powerful tool. So you can use that in one important aspect. So coming to Lingayats, so the prelims questions can be about Basveshwara, Lord Basveshwara. So the Prime Minister Modi has time and again, brought him into the discussions. So for prelims perspective, I will encourage you to revise it, right? And also for a GS paper 1 perspective, Sanskritization is a very powerful concept or a very important topic, Sanskritization. So Lingayat community is a very good example for Sanskritization. So those are the two important things you can recollect. Now, so this is a very beautiful article. It has a lot of points and value addition to be thought. So we'll discuss this in depth. Now, so first of all, for contextualization, those who don't know, you need to understand what is Watergate scandal, what is Watergate movement, and what are the lessons that democracy has learned from Watergate movement. So Richard Nixon was a former president of USA. So during, he served 2 terms. He has to resign in the second term. From first term to second term, there is elections, like re-elections. During this gap, what he has done is directly, whether with his knowledge or someone very enthusiastic to support his re-election campaign, broke into the opposition party's office, which was in Hotel Watergate. So that is hence the name Watergate scandal. So broke into their office and started bugging them, right? To I mean, phone tapping. 60s, 70s, you can understand the technology, right? Phone tapping and all those things. So just about when the elections were about to go on, this scandal broke out. Like, someone broke into the opposition party offices and all these things, but it did not make any ruckus. It totally got buried, and he won by a huge majority. After his re-election, what happened is he came to know directly that these things were done. So instead of coming out clean, just like right now, a scandal has broke out that Pegasus has happened. Instead of coming out clean, yes, we have acquired a tool that is used for national security purposes. Unfortunately, someone misused it or something like that. Total silence and total darkness. And the 5 people who were arrested during the Nixon era, one of them was from CIA. So that means intelligence institutions were used for personal gains of the leaders. Now, what Nixon tried to do is he tried to bury this. He tried to give them money to just stay silent in the court and all those things. And the nail in the coffin was Richard Nixon installed audio recording devices in the White House. Okay, every word said by someone in the White House Oval Office is recorded by the device. Okay, and somehow one of these 5 members announced that this is what happens in White House. So if Richard Nixon was involved, the proof is in the tapes. So it went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court told, please give us the tapes. And when the tapes came out, it literally proved all the evidence in the world, and Richard Nixon has no other option but to resign. Now, so that is the Watergate scandal. So that means a person who is elected for the highest office in the land, okay, who are supposed to be protector of constitution, who is supposed to be protector of all the fundamental rights, and who is supposed to put national interest above everybody else's interest, okay, he misused his position to score political opponent points, to control the power that he's holding on, and do whatever it takes to stay in power rather than being honest to the particular seat, right? Again, it might sound like very utopian and more immoral, but we are not talking about an ordinary individual. We are talking about the highest head in the land, the president of the nation or the prime minister of the country. So such people are supposed to have the highest moral standards, right? So when they are broken for your own individual benefit, you are destroying not that particular opportunity, you are destroying the democracy. So it might be sounding too bigger a word, but the thing is, just imagine if that has become a new normal. Like when we hear, let's say, again, we don't know all the details of Pegasus. Anybody could have done that, even the non-state actors. Let's say if it is done by a state actor, then you can say, Congress has done this, Indira Gandhi has done this. Okay, everybody, Indira Gandhi had literally destroyed democracy to a lot of extent, right? We all know, we have empirical proof. Emergency history has proved that by her actions to self-preservation, she destroyed democracy in more ways than one. We don't want that to be repeated. Next, so even if you take, let's say, prime minister or home minister, someone purchased the Pegasus software, right? They don't sit in front of a laptop and type, right? Some institutional officer, that means either IB or some other office, some bureaucrat is involved in this entire thing. Yes, and it is done by bureaucrats who know that this is not the mandate of why this particular software has been procured, and they are not blind, right? We can clearly see it is used for political ambitions. So so why is bureaucracy also doing this? Next, there is no freedom and accountability for these institutional capacitors, right? So they are the ones who have the tools, and they're supposed to use it for national security, right? And when someone is allowed to misuse this particular tool, whatever happened to the internal checks and balances? Yes, Telegraph Act, IT Act, everything clearly stipulates either chief secretary level or cabinet secretary level person has to scrutinize this. Not less than joint secretary cadre person has to approve this kind of tappings. So someone is given the tool, and he is using left, right, and center. Who is that particular person? Whatever happened to internal checks and balances? Okay, so the lesson here, the greatest opportunity for Indian democracy here is not to make it BJP versus Congress, but to make it something bigger, that is the democracy. Here it is not about to protect or defame one particular individual. It is about making our intelligence agencies independent. I will give you a simple scenario. Just imagine you have a tool. As I told yesterday, you are the devil, right? What is the greatest trick you can pull? That is to convince the opposition party that you don't exist, right? Indian government have Pegasus, hypothetical. Again, I don't know all the details. Let's say Indian government have Pegasus. Okay, it's a very sophisticated security tool. Okay, first of all, nobody is supposed to know that I have this tool. Next, if I use it against, let's say, Naxalite or a hardcore Naxalite, I know him, his phone number or something like that, I'm using against him. And because of the intelligence gathered through that particular number, I was able to diffuse a huge amount of Naxal network. Okay, or I was able to unearth a huge amount of, let's say, a Chinese conspiracy or a money laundering conspiracy or a conspiracy in Jammu and Kashmir, a internal security threat. Like 3 or 4 opportunities could have been explored, right? Now, because again, without any empirical data we are discussing, if let's say because of all this drama, now that all these players, all these actual actors who are going to destroy India really came to know, okay, government is in process of such a powerful tool, right? So probably we should not use mobile phones when we are discussing core plans. So they will try and take serious measures. You might ask me, sir, they are not so smart and all these things, but anybody who have seen a series called as Wire, Wire in HBO, okay, in that what happens is, in the first series and in the first installment, phone tappings have been installed. The drug smugglers understood, okay, all of us have been arrested because of the phone tappings. Next time what they do, they keep the phones only with the lower cadres. The higher cadres will never use the phone. That means the boss and the number twos, okay, right hand, left hand people, they always interact in face to face. Okay, they never carry cell phones. Only the lower cadres actually use the cell phones. Okay, so that too in a coded language, or that too in things which doesn't even make any sense. Okay, next, even if you arrest the lower cadres, it's very hard to prove that they are connected to these people because they interact face to face, and again they have to interact with the top boss in face to face fashion. So all these things will be done in a very informal fashion, right? So that's something that is not supposed to be revealed to the threat. Okay, worst thing is getting inspiration from all these things, not only in India, even the non-state actors will try to gain such tools, right? So there are a lot of problems here in this entire scenario, and we have to talk it from the executive point of view. Here executive is the real at the real loss, right? If I'm IB, if I am CBI, if I am RA, okay, I am the one who have already installed Pegasus, let's say, in so many other anti-national elements. Now probably they are trying to identify whether their phone is infested with Pegasus or not. That's a loss. So all such scenarios have happened because probably someone somewhere have misused this for political scores and to gain control over foes and friends. Yes, yesterday I think there is a wonderful article, a video by Shekhar Gupta, where he argues some of the present cabinet members and Ministry of States were also under the Pegasus observation. So that is not why these kind of tools have been developed. Now, coming back to the entire core argument. So first thing is, do we need a parliamentary oversight over these kind of institutions? So that's one thing. Next, do we need more stringent measures? See, he beautifully sums it up. He says, intelligence gathering is like a salt. Okay, it should be there. This is what we have discussed yesterday also. There should always be tools, because the terrorists, money launderers, traffickers, all these people are using sophisticated technologies. They are getting smarter by the day. Intelligence agencies cannot say, for moral reasons we won't be using spyware. No, they need to use it, but nobody should know that they are using them. That is silence. Silence is most powerful tool in such cases, right? Next, political scenarios, misuse of law, personal vendetta, all these things are strict no. Okay, somebody's head has to roll. a bureaucrat who, let's say someone in home ministry or someone in IT ministry knew that these things are being misused, and he didn't say anything. He has to bring it to somebody's notice. Internal mechanisms have to be done, right? So for the greater good of the democracy, national security has to be put above personal interest and the party's interests, any party, not only one party. Then people will start trusting the system more. So as rightly identified by Hindu editorial, okay, it's very, very safe to say that, no information regarding terrorism or Chinese intrusion can be obtained by spying on a woman who complained over the sexual harassment of the Chief Justice of India. Right? All the logics in the world, all the laws in the world cannot convince you other way by saying, she was a national security threat. Why she complained a sexual harassment case against former Chief Justice of India? That's the most ridiculous argument that one will be heard. So who gives permission for such silly intercept? Okay, for such a silly reason, who is the person behind this particular approval? Okay, he has to be suspended or dismissed from the service without any second thought. Why? That is not why laws have been created. Right? So she can be anyone. Tomorrow it can be Rahul Gandhi, tomorrow it can be you, tomorrow it can be anybody, can be anybody. So the thing is, X is an individual of India. He has certain fundamental rights. Unless proved otherwise, okay, there is no real reason for such kind of deep intrusions. Now we will enter into the article again. So he's totally sane in arguing that executive should have a healthy balance. That totally is appreciated. Next, we see earlier how other legendary examples are there in India, whether it's about Himachal Pradesh case or Mr. Amit Shah's case in Gujarat, or somebody following a girl. So right, then the Neera Radia case of Tatas. So all these things prove that we are not new, or we are not facing a first time scenario of state misusing its power. Unfortunately, we never rectified that particular mistake. Right. Next, IT law and all these laws are very, very stringent. They have clear-cut definitions, like who is permitted to tap a phone or intercept a particular device. But the thing is, there is a lot of ambiguity. There is no legal backing, right? There is a lot of overlapping of powers. Who is doing what? So many things are there. If you see, in common movies, what do they show? A particular inspector will go to a telephone department and the phone number records are easily provided. I don't think that is the scenario. It cannot be provided that easily. There are a lot of checks and balances within the system. The only question is whether these checks and balances are reasonable. Are they being implemented in letter and spirit? Has to be considered. Now, even more important thing we have to understand is, have we outsourced our national security to other country startups and other country institutions? Let's say, for example, the NSO company. NSO company is a registered company under Israel, and it also comes under Wassenaar Agreement, right? Weapon exports. So Pegasus spyware is considered as a weapon export, and Israeli government actually has to give a permission, and it also have end user agreement. Okay, it has something called as end user agreement. What does that mean? The Pegasus has been purchased from Israel, let's say again to Indian government. So what is Indian government doing with that? Whether it is again using it to spy on Israelis or Pakistanis or its own politicians or journalists. So all these things, the following, I mean, the end use agreement allows Israel government and the NSO company to keep a tab on what this particular thing is done by India. Right? So it has a moral obligation to find out what it is being used for. In this entire scenario, we are accepting that we are dependent on an outside party, right, for our national security. So it also gives us an opportunity to go for indigenization, right? So that's a very interesting internal security perspective, right? And obviously Puttaswamy judgment puts a huge layer in front of the systems to make sure that the privacy rights are not violated left, right, and center. It's very, very important for Indian democracy to wake up now, remove a lot of political unnecessary pressure, right, and create independent autonomous institutions to help IB, ERA, or other institutions to work in the best of their capacity for the nation's interest. Okay, not for political interest. Again, so one question can be, sir, should we bring in judiciary to keep an accountability, or should we bring in parliamentary accountability, or should we bring in something else? Now, no intelligence organization would love, the entire parliament to sit and read its reports, how much budget is being used for phone tapping, how much budget is using for giving to informers in Pakistan or some neighboring country or something like that. No independent institution would love to be under a microscope, right? At the same time, they cannot be dark, right? There is a wonderful quotation by Bob Woodward. I think he's a legendary journalist who worked in this, Bob Woodward, who worked in this entire Watergate incident. Okay, he has a beautiful quote. He popularized that quote actually: "Democracy dies in darkness." Okay, democracy dies in darkness. And also there is an even equally important article by Subramaniam, I guess, IPS officer in EPW, where he argues whose national interest, right? So national interest is for the citizen of the country, right? If national interest is paramount, okay, the institutions, let's say IB, it should work for the national interest in letter and spirit, and it cannot be 100% be working in the darkness. There should be some kind of accountability, but at the same time it should have good amount of freedom. We should not suffocate intelligence institutions with regulatory mechanisms. At the same time, we should not make them so powerful that they prefer to work in 100% darkness, right? We don't want democracy to die in the name of national security. At the same time, we don't want IB to be hampered because of too much accountability. There should be a very, very healthy balance. So what are the various suggestions? The various suggestions goes like this. One of the suggestion is to create a internal ombudsman among intelligence agencies, right? Or internal ombudsman. That's one solution. Or we can have a top level committee consisting of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Home Affairs, right? Leader of Opposition being the most important person there, because if I have sanctioned the something wrong and I cannot hide it, right? The leader of opposition being there will be a healthy balance. Everybody will know whether there is actually misuse of national security and all these things. You can also throw in, let's say, Lok Sabha speaker if needed. So what will happen? Worst case scenario, again, I'm very doubtful here. You can include Chief Justice of India. So these people will actually have access to the excluding Chief Justice, like I hope these people will have access to the actual records or data, so that national interest is paramount. All the parties, whether leader in power or leader in opposition, everybody will know it's totally not used for internal political scores, but it is being used for national security, and the data won't be leaked, because anyhow IB comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. They all come under Prime Minister. So most obviously Prime Minister and Home Minister will know everything. Ministry of External Affairs is the one who will have any international ramifications. Let's say the Israeli deal must have been done through the help of a Ministry of External Affairs, right? Then automatically the leader of opposition will also be roped in. So the trust mechanism will increase on the institutions. So this is one way to do that. Or we can have closed door parliamentary committees, right? We can establish a security cabinet committee on security with more powers to scrutinize these reports, but the report will be totally internally classified and it will be discussed. Only when something is misused or something is wrong, such reports are publicly announced, right? So these are the type of mechanisms that can be created. Right. So as I was saying, all these things have a larger picture in this entire scenario, right? We can make uh, intelligence bureaus more efficient and effective, right? Because if it is a non-state actor who is doing all these things, we cannot allow that excuse, right? Then if it is the state actors that are doing, institutional mechanisms are clearly for everybody to see. We need to strengthen them. Parliament, we should have more understanding on how these bodies are working, not for political tools. So it's a one bullet to kill multiple issues in Indian internal security issues. I think the government or opposition should not reduce this to a typical political arena and discuss more about the greater good. So that should be the larger picture that should be we should be taking away, because the way forward is the healthy balance between civil liberties and internal security. Not for a second anybody can argue that it's okay to have a weak national security, because we don't know how many success stories are done by intelligence agencies. We all know failures, whether it's 26/11 or the Ladakh case or Pulwama or Balakot. Okay, so we know the failures, but we don't know the hundreds of success stories these people have achieved by staying behind the scenes, right? So no intelligence agency should get the publicity, popularity. What they need to do is stay behind the scenes, give them the best of everything, give them more freedom, give them more funds, give them independence, and make them work for India rather than work against political parties. Okay, so that's the major takeaway, right? So, and again, the most important thing is the checks and balances. We have joint parliamentary committees, we have Supreme Court. The only two avenues where we are looking for this problem to be solved is either joint parliamentary committee or judicial intervention. Hopefully executive will take care of itself. So in the sense, joint parliamentary committee will be set up and we will see the light at the end of the tunnel. Right. And again, if Congress or some other political party comes into the power, we should not expect a similar scenario, role reversal. That is not what is needed. Right. So this is article about river water management boards, right? For prelims perspective, the the Godavari, the Krishna basins become very, very important. Previous questions also have come in the similar area. And next, river management boards. What is the power of parliament in respect to this particular thing? Whether the judgment given by the tribunals are binding or not, whether they are final or not, is there a judicial recourse? So all these things are most important for prelims. I mean, the static part is more important than what is happening in this particular insight. And I also wanted to bring this ethical aspect, right? See, it's morally wrong for a leader to misuse his power. Next is, what is the role of whistleblower? Right? If someone I know from intelligence bureau or some other institution in India comes out, like Edward Snowden has done, and say this is how political parties have misused it, okay, is it right or wrong? In normal ethics classes, in normal understanding, most of the times in the world, we did understand that whistleblowing is the least suggested method, because it will destroy the institutional integrity forever and it will cause a long-term damage. But if someone, let's say a whistleblower, comes out and say this is what is happening, and that led to fall or resignation of some higher authorities, okay, or some senior officer, then he is doing something good for the overall democracy, right? So should we go for the utilitarian principle, where greater number of greater good should be respected, or democracy, the rules have to be respected? Yes. Next, do we have an internal grievance redressal mechanism? before going to whistleblowing, where I can go to someone and say, this is what I know, this is what the hypothetically home secretary have done, or home minister have done, or prime minister have done. Do we have such mechanism so that it won't become a public spectacle, but internally a complaint will be raised and it will be looked into? If it is true, somebody will be punished. If it is not true, then what? Right? So whistleblowing is a very powerful tool here. We all know Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden is the most famous whistleblower in the world as of now. So he has brought out the entire PRISM program, where American government is spying on all the citizens. Yes. And we are equally supportive to the intelligence agencies that there should always be tools available to them. We don't want to take away their tools, but we want their tools to be indigenously developed. We don't want to depend on some third country to help us. Atmanirbharta in intelligence again. Right. So this is an interesting article. I don't know how many of you remember the Pew survey and the common discussion that we had after the Pew survey article, where I have continuously said India loves to live in contradictions in the boxes, right? And as long as I am in my box and you are in your box, we are totally fine. So yesterday we have seen what we call as sky boxification. I live in a penthouse. I live in a whole new box. Sky boxification, right? As long as you are living here, right? So that's also totally fine. So in such scenarios, what is Mr. Ashish Nandi trying to bring here, and what is the entire meaning of these things? Now, simply put, it's like this. So the same concept, right? Simply put, it's like this. As long as I'm in a particular box, okay, I don't have any issues with you. And she brings all this essence in one particular paragraph. Every community, every group lives in its own bubble, right? And the bubble is so powerful and so deeply rooted that it creates, or it has its own internal mechanisms, where it argues that because I live in this particular bubble so well, okay, I don't want to do anything to you, and I don't expect you to do anything to me. I will live my life, you will live your life. So it's an internal balance against this hate. Okay, that's point number one. And point number two is, I clearly know the other is other, right? Instead of removing my mind with, instead of removing prejudices and stereotypes from my mind, what I have done is I have accepted the other is a very dangerous fellow, or the other is a very violent fellow, the other loves other things, and I clearly 100% know that other is A and I am B, and I can never be B and B can never be A. We don't have anything common. Okay, because I have this strong bubble. Instead of me removing all the prejudices, or B removing all the prejudices, again, it's not all about me, right? Both of us have to do some compromise. Both of us has to be educated. Both of us should love peace. Both of us should work for India. Both of us should work for the same community. Both of us should work for the welfare of humanity. So all this both of thing business is very, unworkable. It takes a lot of energy, patience, education, so on and so forth. And even if I do that, I may not totally get rid of all the prejudices. Okay, subconsciously they might still be stuck. Instead of that, what we do in Asia, so that is what he talks about, right? Asian cosmopolitanism. He says A is A, B is B. I know he hates me. He know I hate him. But as long as we are working in, high hello business, like to an extent, without mixing and all these things, I'm totally fine with him being he and me being me. Okay, so that's a whole new paradigm. It's like live and let live policy at the society level, right? So this is mostly useful for GS Society 1, not in this depth, probably mostly useful for sociology students. But it helps you to become a better policy maker. It helps you to understand the local problems. The other day, the IAS officer solving the problem in Maharashtra, right? the tribal hamlet. So probably the similar things might help you as a policy maker. You understand, okay, these two communities may never work together, but it's very healthy to understand that they don't work together, but there are some commonalities which will make them work along with each other. May not work with may not work towards removing that prejudice, but maybe we might put that healthy balance, so that no future person can come and exploit these understandings. It's good, again, no need of doing PhD and all those things. Right. So the next article is Supreme Court annuals, part of cooperative or cooperation amendment 97. So what Supreme Court has done is the 97th amendment, which was introduced by Parliament without half of the states ratification. They have entered into the state's domain. So that part has been removed by the Supreme Court. It is now saying only the multi-state cooperative societies can be controlled by the central government because it is their power, but states will retain the power to control the state co-op or single state cooperative institutions. So this is empowerment of the federalism, right? But again, here what Parliament has to do is it has to pass the bill again and make sure that it is getting half of the states ratification. Then center can have power over state cooperative societies as well, right? So if this judgment is actually passed, or if the Supreme Court gives a positive judgment towards this particular journalist, okay, it is going to be a landmark because he was arrested under National Security Act and then Supreme Court gave him a bail recently, right? So he is claiming compensation now for wrongful incarceration, right? So it's about personal liberty, and somebody is thrown into the jail for certain amount of time without any solid case against him, and national security case has been applied just like that, very casually, right? So somebody has to be punished here, and if the compensation is of a very high amount, it will set a right precedent in the mind of the executive that if I want to punish someone, there should be a proportionality. If he has done actual some crime, he should be legally booked under something, right? So if you don't like what he has posted, probably defamation or other cases might be there, but but throwing him under National Security Act is overkill. Yes. Next. This one is about ex gratia that central government has announced in relation to the COVID victims. National Disaster Management Authority is the one who has the power to decide ex gratia, and it is saying that we need certain amount of time because it has a national level ramification. If I announce, let's say 1 crore or 2 crore, and we found out lakhs and lakhs of citizens have passed away, that will become a huge burden on the state. So we need to have a healthy understanding of how many citizens have died, what is a healthy compensation, and it will also set a long-term precedent. So for prelims perspective, I will encourage you to read what is National Disaster Management Authority. Okay. So in 2019 itself, the IT House panel has successfully discussed about the Pegasus virus, and back then 121 citizens have been severely affected by the Pegasus. So right now we don't know how many people are under the surveillance, right? So this is one more interesting article about GS paper 2. This is about Supreme Court mulls over punishment. Now, Supreme Court has given an order saying, please declare publicly the people with criminal antecedents in your political party and also give a reason why you are choosing them over others. So criminalization of politics is a huge cancer to the democracy, we all know. And that cancer is spreading like anything. Yes, because it is spreading like anything, Supreme Court has given some progressive judgments. In this particular case, the progressive judgment is not followed. So that is why Supreme Court and Election Commission of India are saying, if somebody doesn't follow the rules, we will de-recognize them. We will block their symbol. Yes, and that will create a lot of problems for the political parties. Right now, there is no way to de-recognize a political party. It has a lot of drama. There is no clear-cut clarity. So that is why Election Commission is going to the Supreme Court. So if Supreme Court actually gives the clarity that, yeah, Election Commission of India has the power to de-recognize political parties, criminalization of politics, wrongful declaration of assets during election campaigning, lot of things will be taken very seriously by the political parties. So, and that is how democracy gets strengthened. Now, this is about Afghanistan issue. Rockets have targeted presidential palace. As all of you know, once the Americans started withdrawing from Afghanistan, the attacks have gone high, and this is very close to presidential palace, and that's not something to be very happy about for Indian interests, because Indian government is still supporting the Afghanistan government. Now, so these are the major articles from the Hindu. This article can be discussed in tomorrow's class with a different context. We'll club some more articles. Okay, so I think a different app. Yeah. So this is an article by Mr. Pratap Banu Mehta. This is also about Pegasus. Now, what is he trying to say? So similar points like whatever we have discussed in this class. So if government does not have anything to hide, it's better for the government to declare everything clearly so that it will increase the credibility of the institutions. So that is what he is trying to argue. And he's also saying the most important thing is democracy should not be sacrificed in this particular junction in the name of political parties. So that is why I don't want to go too much into these two articles. I have covered them. Right. Now, yesterday Nagasai has sent me some questions. I would like to discuss them. So the first question he brings out is, because of lack of infrastructure and electricity, schools are not functioning well, but we can use corporate social responsibility funds to install solar panels and in the school rooftops. So actually what we can target is taking your idea to the next level. We can make almost all the government schools 100% self-sufficient. I mean, we can create biogas plants, we can create renewable energy plants, so that schools don't have to depend on external power sources. That will save a lot of money, and most of the government schools have a lot of infrastructure, right? So that will be a very nice idea. It's good. I think Rajasthan, as you have mentioned, Rajasthan government is doing that. It can be taken to the next level. No. Yes, in Right to Education Act, RTE, have certain rules. Under that, it clearly mentions a school should have this much amount of playground. It should have sports time, dedicated sports time, mental activity time. National education policy also says all these things, because physical and mental development both are equally important. In this corporate world, in this materialistic world, everybody is trying to get their kids learn coding and all these things, complete the syllabus, enter IITs at the earliest level, all these things. We are not focusing enough on the sports, human mind development and all these things. But actually, one of the best things we can learn in life is through sports, right? You develop competitive spirit, you develop that healthy bonding, team spirit. A lot of cognitive development happens actually in sports, but we are killing that. Okay, next, coming to surveillance, should we add judiciary to it? See, there are two ways to deal with this. As I have mentioned, a core committee of the top most people in the country can come together and they can supervise, or you can set up a joint parliamentary committee, permanent defense committee, with equal members from or in proportional representation from different political parties. But as I told you, these internal security agencies are not happy to reveal what they are doing to outside parties. So the best thing is to keep the committee very small but also to bring the details into the parliamentary domain. I mean, if you can also throw in blockchain. Okay, I might like exaggerating, but the thing is, if a particular phone number is being tapped or particular phone is being tapped, it is done through some legal means, right? So some justification must be there. So if a phone is being tapped in the country, it must be registered in the blockchain. After that, nobody can change that. It doesn't matter who have done what for how long, but the record is always there. So from that point onwards, if somebody wants to tap somebody's phones, the executive will say, sir, that is not possible because you are officially accepting in the blockchain that I have. Of course, it's a closed loop blockchain, but the thing is, you cannot destroy the evidence. So we should create such mechanisms, whether at center level or state level. If some official request is being done for tapping of somebody's phone, or even informal request also, it has to go through the blockchain. We have to create a door like that where once it is registered, only then you can do that, whether legally or illegally, but registry has to be done. Okay, so the trust, that mutual trust, smart trust can be created so that we can avoid judiciary. But bringing in judiciary will make only these institutions defensive, and political masters also very, very defensive. But the last recourse for our fundamental rights is judiciary. Right? So that is more or less about surveillance. Again, we will keep seeing more and more data. Government probably will try to bring a new bill about this entire surveillance issue after this particular thing to project its innocence. So that will also be good for the democracy, right? So I think these are the most important articles of the day. If there is anything else, I will add. If you have any questions, drop a message on the Telegram.